Meeting, and it's Monday, April 6th, 2020. We'll start the meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom.
Here.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong. Lewis. Lehman.
Here.
Drury. Evans.
Here.
Drury, are you here?
Here.
Okay, good.
No, not that.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. And next, we're going to have our invocation by Pastor Julie Norwood, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Heavenly Father, good evening, and thank you for the day that you've given us. Lord, as we gather in this place tonight, we ask that you would give us wisdom and discernment, Lord. Help us to know that every decision that we make is affected by other decisions. And Lord, we just ask for more of you tonight and less of us. Thank you that these public servants have endured through a tumultuous season, Lord, in this city. And Father, whatever side we're on of the podium, we need each other. So God, more of you and less of us, we pray tonight. May there be unity among those that are serving in this forum tonight, and may the betterment of our brotherhood be promoted, Father, because we need each other and these times are hard. But God, you're faithful, and we rely on that, and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance. Thank you for that, everyone. And now for the adoption of the agenda. The council may choose to alter the agenda to an extent or adopt it as written. Would there be a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Armstrong and a second by Lewis to adopt the agenda. All in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Mayor, roll call. All votes have to be roll call.
Oh. Okay, roll call vote on the adoption of the agenda. You're going to be busy tonight, Heidi.
Lewis. Lehman.
Aye.
Drury.
Aye.
Evans.
Here. Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong.
Passes. Okay, thank you. And now on to general public comment. And this is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at this meeting on any item not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members. So for general public comment, we have a speaker request form from Nick Urey. And for anyone speaking, we have a timer over here for 3 minutes. Just keep an eye on the lights and you'll figure out when your time is up. Go ahead, sir.
Mayor, Council, I represent the Grand Gateway Hotel Cheers Sports Lounge, and just wanted to talk a little about some of the stuff that's been going on since the ordinance. The distributors came up and gave us a credit for the beer in our bar, which I thought was great. That's one less bill we have to pay. When I asked him where's he taking it, he said Walmart, just to let you know. Rapid City is a tourist-driven town. We've suffered 2 punches, and we got a 3rd one coming. The first punch was the state canceling all sporting events. This significantly hurt our industry bad. The second punch was the mayor and some of the members of the council to shut down the economic hub of Rapid City. We do reach out to about 250 miles for people coming in. That hurt us bad. We have a 3rd punch coming, and people need to get ready for it. And we're experiencing high cancellations for the summertime. Why? Because COVID's not supposed to peak until June and July. So it's coming. I guess I'm down here to, again, interject into the dialogue regarding property tax. This was the mayor's budget that he presented to the council. Property tax represents 27% of your guys' budget. You guys have shut us down. There needs to be some type of workaround for us. Property taxes are due April 30th. In light of this, we would like our county, our commissioners, and our city government to take responsibility for choosing to shut us down and do something to help this business community while we are unable to generate revenue. A couple options: forgive property tax during this shutdown period. 2, postpone property tax from April 30th to July 30th. The IRS did it. Or C, forgive late fees regarding property taxes if other businesses can't make it. We're all in this together. The city owes us a responsibility to its primary revenue producers, businesses, to offer some kind of financial assistance while it maintains mandatory shutdown. My outcome is not to create demands, but to create a dialogue. And you can go to the petition here, change.org/Rapid City Tax, sign it so we can circulate it to the council and to the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all of the speaker requests for general public comment. We did stand up a email link on the website for written general public comment. Those emails have been distributed to the city council members present, and we'll not be reading those tonight. But there were 10 or less emails received. So those will be attached to the agenda, or are attached to the agenda. So moving past general public comment then, on to non-public hearing items, items 1 through 49. There are no speaker requests for public comment on 1 through 40. So we'll go to consent items 1 through 40. The council may pick items off of this list to discuss individually or approve all of them with one vote. And we have a comment from Darla Drew.
I'd like to remove item 11, 13, and 33.
Okay, would the council like to remove any other items for individual discussion? Motion to approve the remainder of the consent with the exception of 11, 13, and 33 by Lewis and a second by Lehman. All roll call vote, please.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong. Lewis. Lehman.
Aye.
Drury.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And now on to item 11. Authorize staff to advertise for bids for 2020 lane line painting. Estimated cost $120,000. Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I see that Dale has approached the podium. I have a couple questions for Dale Tech, please.
Please.
Thank you, Dale. We talk about this every spring, but I think it's kind of necessary in the spring and the fall to remind people that that is when we do our line painting, as you explained before, because of the heat and cold sensitivity of the paint, that we need to do this when it's warm. So can you tell me when this might be happening?
Typically, the way we structure our lane line painting contract is the painting is typically the first painting. We do a spring and a fall painting. The spring painting is typically done by the mid part of June. Certainly this year might be a bit odd. We don't know what the supplier's situation is as far as getting paint. We'll see. I think we'll be okay. And then certainly our fall painting, they wait as late as they can. We always have nice weather and ground temperature in the fall to be able to paint. So the fall, typically October is when we finish up with that.
Well, thank you for that. It seems like a small matter in these times, but I just think it's important people know that's coming or possibly delayed. Thank you. I yield.
Okay. Need a motion for item 11? Motion to approve Nordstrom and second by Stroman. All in favor of approval of item 11? We're going to fight about that all night. Roll call, please.
Evans.
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item 13, request authorization to seek proposals for professional services for San Marco Boulevard Bridge replacement.
Yeah, I'll take this.
Darla Drew.
Okay, Dale Tech, please. Thank you. This is my ward, and I guess I thought this was already underway, but it could happen any time until 2022, is that correct, or?
Correct. All of our bridges are inspected every 2 years, so we can see when a bridge is coming down the road to need repair. We only have a certain amount of funding annually, so we try to program these structures out as we see them coming. So that's the reason for the date of being 2022. It takes a while to get through the consultant selection process and the design process to be able to get the project to fruition.
So right now, we're just in seeking design services? Is that what-
Correct.
Okay. And the cost of the project is $600,000, but I didn't see how much the grant funds were that we were getting from the DOT.
Typically, that's an 80-20 match, so typically it's 80%.
They pay 80%?
Typically, yes.
Well, that's good news. Okay, thank you, I yield.
Okay, we need a motion on item 13. Who said that? Nordstrom? Nordstrom made the motion to approve, and Stroman, okay, Stroman caught me off guard. Stroman made a second. We'll go to roll call vote now.
Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Roberts, Stroman. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item 33, approve the Rapid City year-end 2019 population estimate. Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I asked several questions about this at the Legal and Finance meeting last week because it's such an important number for our community. The year-end population was about 77,000 people and change for the 2019 population estimate. Those numbers are based on not only the census from 2010, but other indicators as to where our population is. So I asked Ken Young, who is our Community Development Director, if he would answer some questions as to why those numbers are important. So I asked the mayor for permission before the meeting to read his response, and so I'd like to do that at this time. The information is important because I think it will also remind people to fill out their census because we need these numbers and we need them to be correct. It's easy in these times for things like this to fall off your plate, but it's really important to the city because we will be coming out of this and we'll need population numbers. The following decisions and programs are benefited by accurate reporting of the Rapid City population estimate. This is from Ken Young. Assists in determining the number of allowed video lottery machines in the community, which is regulated by Municipal Code Section 5.64.020 and SDCL 35-4-2. Number 2, helps guide and continues development of transportation infrastructure. 3, help make accurate future population projections by providing a reasonable percent change. 4, also, the estimates to be derived from the 2020 census assist us with the following. A, the federal government uses census numbers to allocate hundreds of billions in dollars in federal and state funds. This includes transportation, education, housing, and other community programs. B, developers/businesses use the numbers to decide where to locate new commercial and residential development. And C, 911 systems are based on maps developed from the census. So those are the very important reasons that this is why I pulled this item, because I wanted to be able to justify why you should do the census and what those numbers are used for. I yield.
Okay, need a motion on item 33.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Armstrong, second by Lehman. All in favor of approval, say aye. Oh, geez. Roll call, please. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure it out before the night's over. You watch.
Drew. Sorry. Drew.
Aye.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong. Lewis. Lehman. Drury.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. That takes us through consent items, and now on to non-consent items 41 through 49. We'll open the public comment on these items, and we have one speaker request on item 48, and that is from Elizabeth Frederick. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council.
There you go.
I was asked by several small businesses to address this issue tonight. When I walked in the door, I noticed all the chairs are spaced 6 feet apart, and I thank you for that. But we're asking is that you allow us to do the same in our businesses. There are so many small businesses, small bistros, restaurants that are not sustaining this. The biggest concern here is this is not a statewide ordinance. It's Rapid City, and there are some other municipalities that have passed the same. I'm not even here to question the constitutionality of it, because I know this council and mayor were faced with some very difficult decisions. But I walk into Sam's Club, and they have the 6 feet lines as you're waiting to leave, and many other stores have complied with that. We haven't been given that opportunity. I also own a small little bar and grill, and there are some businesses that are brand new in town, and they're not going to sustain the 2 weeks that they've already been forced to shut down. What should happen in the event that the governor finally says, hey, we all need to shut down? And that peak is anticipated July-ish, June, July. They won't make it. Many will shut their doors. We want to encourage businesses to stay open. We want to see them succeed. So what I'm imploring of the council and the mayor here this evening is to allow us, rather than extending the complete closure past the April 8th deadline, to allow those small businesses to do what you did in here tonight, to space their tables 6 feet apart. And in the event you can't get them 6 feet apart, according to the executive order issued by the governor, it was a 6 feet apart, and if you can't accommodate that, no more than 10 people in the room. I watched a little seminar that a doctor in New York did today. He said the biggest contraction was the hand-to-face contraction of this disease. And what I've noticed here in Pennington County, since you issued this ordinance on March 27th, is that we haven't really seen an increase in cases. I think 3 since that ordinance was issued. So we're just asking to give us that opportunity to do the 10-person and 6 feet apart rule, as you've done here tonight, giving these other businesses a chance to generate some income during the meantime, prior to the governor perhaps ordering a complete shutdown. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, with that, we'll close the public comment period, and we'll start with ordinances, item number 41. Second reading, ordinance 6402 regarding supplemental appropriation 2 for 2020. Can we have a motion, please? Motion to approve by Drew. Second by Armstrong. Now we'll go to a roll call vote.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong. Lewis. Lehman.
Aye.
Drury. Drury.
She's on mute.
Come back to her.
Evans.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Drury. Motion passes 8-1.
Okay, thank you. And now on to item 42, Second reading of ordinance 6413, an emergency ordinance to address a public health crisis by allowing the Common Council to implement certain measures by resolution which have been deemed necessary to slow the community spread of coronavirus or COVID-19. We have a motion to approve by Lewis. Second by Armstrong. And we'll go to a roll call vote.
Mayor,
Yes? Oh, wait, someone wants in from the phone.
this is 42.
This is 42.
Drury wants to speak.
Okay, well,
There.
Becky, are you on the phone?
Says help me.
I'm finally back. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, repeat yourself, please, Becky.
On item number 42, I would like to just state that I supported the original ordinance. Then right behind the first ordinance was an amendment changing the rules. So with the first amendment, like with a heavy heart, I voted to approve that, to close the various businesses. And I think from the numbers that we've seen versus what places like Sioux Falls have seen, that limiting gathering in those spaces has really worked. But now we're voting to remove the time restriction of that ordinance and to change it. So if we allow the council to make those changes by resolution, and it doesn't allow our business patrons, our citizens to have comment, because now we don't have that 5-day wait. And in effect, with allowing the public to have little or no opportunity for input. And I'm leery that if something comes up that becomes maybe a emotional issue, that we'll rush to a decision that doesn't give everybody time to weigh in. And I'm very leery of that. I do like the fact that it comes from we can respond quickly. However, not affording business owners or the public to be heard is, I don't know, it gives me angst. And so I will be voting against this because of not allowing and not giving the public time to respond. I yield.
Okay, thank you. Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say, as far as regards to this, I'm also aware of the slippery slope of allowing government to have, too much power, so to speak. But this is the case where we're faced with a crisis, an emergency, and we need to be able to act and react quickly to an ever-evolving situation. And I think that's a very good thing for. Okay, I thought you messed with my mic. I think it's just very good that we're able to react as quickly as possible. This isn't a forever thing, but I do believe that it's necessary in this case, just because of the ever-changing situation, how things are going, and as the numbers continue to climb. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nice, noisy one for you. And so, therefore, I will be supporting this motion because I think it just gives us the tools to continue to react to this and not have to wait long periods of time and potentially put more people at risk and more healthcare workers at risk and more of the public at risk. Thank you.
Okay, Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things for the smaller businesses here. There is a lot of help from the SBA. If you haven't looked at it, you should look at it. The business I work for is looking at it right now to get payroll for the summer so that we can be employed for the summer. We're applying at this time. If you have a payroll, you can apply for the SBA assistance. And when we're talking about spacing chairs, that's a lot different than spacing tables. You can space tables six feet apart, but if there's 4 people at it, it's not doing its job. I don't see a lot of people going to a bar, bistro, or restaurant and sitting 6 feet apart, but that's just my experience. I don't think that would work any differently. I don't think it'd drive in a bunch of customers. We get a lot of emails, as you could probably imagine, and we've heard from people that are worried about the virus, refugees, that's what I'm calling them, the people that are coming from out of this area to go out, to do things. And that might happen in other areas. That might be available in Black Hawk or Spearfish or Sturgis, whatever, but they're not coming here because we're not open. So that's a good way to protect our community. And if nothing happens, if we've had 3 people with an outbreak, if nothing happens, that's the point. We don't want anything to happen. And we can see all over this country what's going on right now. So I will be, once again, voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Okay, motion on the floor is John Roberts wants to talk. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. I just like to wait until the very end to catch you off guard. You know, we're talking a little bit about the next ordinance, 48, item 48 on this too, but I'm a little bit leery of this too because of the fact that it really doesn't give people enough time to get out and express their opinion. I think at this time, most of us that may have a varying opinion on this, it no longer really matters. You know, but you really do have to look at what the numbers are in West River right now, and I will say I believe we closed down our businesses a little too soon, if it was going to happen at all. I think that a lot of the business owners could operate and could make a safe environment, or at least a safer environment than Sam's Club and Walmart and, you know, these places. Runnings, I was in Runnings the other day and there was probably 70 or 80 people in there. So, you know, there's a lot of businesses out there that still have large amounts of people in them, and I find it sad that government became so heavy-handed that we didn't even give the business people an opportunity to try to run their businesses. And you know, today I was reading the National Restaurant Association's newsletter because I don't have anything else to do. There's all kinds of stuff out there. You might as well read it all. And they said, on average, if restaurants nationwide are shut down for 30 days, 25% of them will not reopen their doors. So, you know, if you're looking in Rapid City and all the small businesses that we have put in harm's way, I think that's one of the things that we have to look at and be prepared for is 10, 20% of these businesses will not open their doors back up. That's lost revenue for us. You know, we haven't even started the discussion yet about the budget that we probably have on the table that we should probably throw out and start all over again, because we are going to be down, you know, 20, 30% of our revenue. You know, I find it interesting, and I'm really going to step on a lot of toes right here. I find it interesting that we can put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people out of business. My mic went dead. But I find it very interesting that we haven't even started the discussion yet about possibly laying off non-essential city employees. Because if we're laying off hundreds and hundreds of people within the city or telling them that they can no longer work, I think as government we've got to step up and you know, we've got a responsibility here too. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I'm going to vote no on this again like I did before, but I'll speak more on the next item when it comes in. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Becky Drury wants to speak again.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I just ask the city attorney if he could do a clarification on what the difference is between the ordinance 6412 and 6413 is? Because I don't really think the public understands what the difference is between an ordinance versus a resolution.
Okay, Joel Landine.
Thank you, Mayor. With an ordinance, it requires a first and second reading, and there has to be 5 days in between the first and second reading. So if you decide to take action, you would need to have a first reading and then wait 5 days before you could take further action. So what the ordinance amendment does is allow you to expand, contract the businesses covered by the ordinance or the time frames, So not only could you make the ordinance more restrictive by resolution, you could also dial back on the requirements when it appears the time is right. So with the resolution, it does not require 2 readings. So essentially, if it was published the next day, it would become effective the following day. So the main difference is the amount of time in which you can take action.
Is that good explanation, Becky?
Yes, I just wanted everyone to understand that we could take action and it would virtually give the public no time to respond. Thank you. I yield.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor for approval, and we'll go to a roll call vote now.
Lewis,
Aye.
Lehman,
No.
Drury,
No.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong. Motion passes, motion passes 6-3.
Okay, thank you. Now, item 43, first reading, ordinance 6403, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by Black Hills Habitat for Humanity for a rezoning request from office commercial district to medium density residential district for property generally described as being located at 611 Herman Street. The recommendation from committee was to approve in conjunction with the associated major amendment to the plan development application file 20PD005. Motion to
Move to
approve
approve.
from Roberts, and was that a second by Drury? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table for approval. We'll go to roll call, please.
Roberts. Yes. Stroman. Armstrong. Lewis. Lehman.
Aye.
Drury.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
Sorry. Evans.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item 43. I just got sprayed with essential oils because I cleared my throat. Item 43, first reading, ordinance 6403. No, wait, we just did that one. Item 44, first reading, ordinance 6404, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Long Branch Civil Engineering for BFD Development LLC for a rezoning request from residential commercial district to low-density residential district for property generally described as being located at the northern terminus of Hawkins Street.
Move to approve.
Okay, move to approve by Drew, second by Lewis, and we'll go to John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just need to abstain from this.
Okay? We have a motion for approval on item 44. We'll go to roll call vote.
Evans.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Nordstrom. Stroman. Armstrong. Lewis. Lehman.
Aye.
Drury.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0 with Roberts abstaining.
Okay, thank you. Item number 45, first reading, ordinance 6405, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Long Branch Civil Engineering for BFD Development LLC for a rezoning request from office commercial district to low-density residential district for property generally described as being located at the northern terminus of Hawkins Street. Motion to approve by Nordstrom, second by Stroman, and John Roberts wants to abstain again.
Absolutely, and the next one, so.
Okay? All right, we have a motion for approval. Roll call vote, please.
Armstrong. Lehman, Drury,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Stroman. Motion passes 8-0 with Roberts abstaining.
Item 46, first reading ordinance 6406, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of Chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Long Branch Civil Engineering for BFD Development LLC for a rezoning request from medium-density residential district to low-density residential district for property generally described as being located at the northern terminus of Hawkins Street.
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Drew and a second by Lehman. And John Roberts is going to abstain, and we'll go to a roll call vote, please.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury,
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0 with Roberts abstaining.
Okay, thank you. Item 47, first reading ordinance 6384, an ordinance to add a pre-submittal meeting to the requirements for development engineering plans by amending section 16.08, I'm guessing that's .070, of the Rapid City Municipal Code.
Approve.
Motion approved by Drew and a second by Richie Nordstrom. We have a motion for approval, so we'll go to roll call vote, please.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Under council items and liaison reports, item 48. Review and discuss whether to allow the mandatory closures contained in ordinance 6412 to expire on April 8th, or whether the closure should be extended for an additional period of time, and I'll open it up for discussion. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a reason why I'm wearing a mask tonight, and that's the CDC made a recommendation for the public to start doing this. And so I'm trying to do my best to comply with the CDC recommendation. Is if you get a chance to go to the CDC website, they do have that on their website. Also, I had a nice long conversation with the Monument Health folks, and if in our packet we received a very good letter describing what they would like in the ordinance as well. And I'm supporting whatever motion is coming out with this to extend this for 2 weeks at least. This will give Monument Health the opportunity to do what they need to do in coming up with with their plan and to execute their plan. So I'm very supportive of this. And then just one other footnote is that for the restaurant people that were in the audience speaking earlier, is that go to the Elevate Rapid City website under the Resources tab, go to the the virus tab, and you will see how to do the application for that SBA loan. And it is very helpful. The site does crash quite a bit right now because everybody's getting on there, so be patient. And then it also will help out the people that are asking for reemployment insurance assistance. And one other note that I have is that the state has come up with a model, and I don't know exactly how they came up with the numbers, but I've been looking at another site that comes up with a model for estimating on the number of coronavirus cases that will be developing. And right now we are on track to double every 4 days. And that's a state level that we're looking at. So I'm very concerned about that number doubling every 4 days. And that's another reason why I'm supporting this if it comes to a resolution. Thank you, Mayor. I'll yield.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council? Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to extend the ordinance for another 2 weeks until the next council meeting.
Okay, we have a motion to extend from Lewis and a second from Armstrong. So would that be until the 20th?
Whatever the recommendation in the, sorry.
Joel Andine.
Joel Linden.
So again, for publication and to make it effective, I did it, so I would extend it for 2 weeks to the Wednesday, and it'll be effective then the following day after your meeting.
Okay, that's my motion.
So Wednesday, the 22nd?
Right.
Okay, so the motion is to extend
Sure.
the ordinance and the closures until Wednesday, April 22nd. We'll go to John Roberts.
I'm still.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Chad Lewis.
I know John wants to jump in here quickly, but I just wanted to, I'm glad Mr. Nordstrom brought up modeling because I've been, doing a lot of looking at the modeling like everybody else is. We're all trying desperately to gain as much information as we can before we vote on these things, and the general public just wants to know what's going on too. So I talked to a friend of mine who happens to work for the CDC in some capacity, and he pointed me to a really excellent article that I think everybody should reference by The Atlantic online that you can check out. It does a really good job of explaining how modeling works, but just a quick overview for those at home. They function as simulations, basically, for the potential outcomes, right? And they take all this data and they gather it together, and then you come up with basically a big, thick trunk of them, probably what's going to most likely happen. But these models also produce what's called tails. And these are the extreme ends of the spectrum. And these are the things that could happen. You have the extremely optimistic side, which is very few people get sick and very few people die. And then you have the very extremely pessimistic side, which is millions of people die and everybody gets sick. And so, people think these are extreme tails and they're not going to work, they never happen. Well, a good example of something happening, and I'm not going to say this is good or bad, okay, just of a tale actually coming true is the 2016 election of President Trump. All the models said he was going to lose, and he won. And that was one of the extreme tales of the modeling at that time. And so those do come true. And so that leads us to when we're faced with things like COVID-19, we have to ignore the optimistic models that say very few people are going to get hurt. In the middle, too, because those are things that are probably going to happen. We can't do a lot about them. But we need to focus on the extremely pessimistic version of that, and those extremely pessimistic versions of the tale, where, say, millions of people could die. And in our area, a lot of people could die. Thousands of people could die. And so we focus on those worst outcomes, and by doing that, we can implement things like we're doing right now, social distancing, limiting crowd capacity, things of that nature, and those are working. And when that happens, it changes the model. The models are constantly changing, but it's reducing potential outcomes the entire time. It's a working thing. It's never an exact science, but all you're trying to do is reduce the number of people that are hurt. And so, this happens, and we do this, and hopefully we're reducing the amount of people that are going to be sick and going to die. And I think it's great that we're doing things like mobile hospitals, or we're setting those up, preparing for the overflow of beds. But why don't we do a better thing like implement these things so less people get sick, less people die? I'm not sure we even have enough healthcare workers to man these extra hospitals. I'm assuming we do. I mean, I assume they're not just going to throw these things together. But as more and more people get sick, more and more healthcare workers are going to get sick and potentially die. And that's less people to take care of you and I and everybody else out there. And so it multiplies onto itself. So I think the prudent thing here is to continue to practice social distancing, to keep, as a government, to make sure that we're trying our best to mitigate the potential extremes of this model. And, therefore, hopefully less people will get sick, less people will die, and we can recover, with everybody intact, not just the few who are lucky. That's my reason for supporting this motion. Thank you.
John Roberts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad that we're only looking at putting this out for 2 more weeks because I was afraid that it may go out further than that. I think my question is going to be when are we going to be comfortable enough in the future to actually open up businesses? What shows us that? I mean, is it going to be when these cases start to decline? Is it going to be when we no longer get any more cases? Because that could be a year and a half from now. When are we going to decide on this council when the time is right? Are we going to wait for, somebody out there to tell us that? Because you can ask 10 different people right at this point and get 10 different answers. There's not a lot of real hard data out there. I think we all know that from everything that we've looked at over the last month. You know, but I can say, because I was pretty interested in this new model that our governor came out with, saying that 600,000 people in South Dakota were going to get it. And here's one of the reasons that I'm wondering about that is looking today, they updated this Department of Health at 5 o'clock today, and looking at the numbers so far, and granted, these numbers are going to go way up because we're going to start testing more, and that's a good thing. We need to test more. We need to get, you know, the test for the antibodies. We need to know how many people has actually had this so we can get some hard data. But if you actually look at the numbers out there, we've tested 5,732 people in the state. Or no, that was the negative ones in the state that came back negative. There's 288 positive, 5,732 negative. So if you just take those numbers of what we've tested so far, it isn't even possible to get to 600,000 people. It's not possible. You know, unless these 5,732 do get infected sometime in the future. But if they're showing some kind of symptoms now, I'm guessing that's why they're being tested. Now, if you look at the 288 cases, so far in the state of South Dakota, 23 people have been hospitalized. So far. Now, they're not telling us how many people have actually already have gotten over this out of the hospital. Now, 4 people have died. So you can take that 23 down to 19 possible in hospitals right now. And 91 have recovered. And I think we need to look at that 91 number pretty hard because the 91, it's going up as the people, you know, as these cases are coming in, the new cases, the recovered number is going up. So that recovered number from the numbers that I've looked at and put together since this has been up is somewhere between 20 and 25%. So, you know, when do we, as a council, decide that the time is right? And I'm afraid that we're going to, it may be too soon, it may be too late, okay? But there's going to come a point sometime in the future, and hopefully in the near future, because hopefully this will peak out sooner than what everybody's saying, because, you know, I think I looked at 6 different models today. And that what I'm looking at those models is when we're going to peak, okay? And that's one of the things that just scared the crap out of me by NOM's models too, is saying that we're going to peak, you know, into the summer or into, you know, because for Rapid City, and I don't want to sound like, you know, the guy that's putting money over everything else, but what happens if you lose the tourist season in Rapid City, South Dakota? That's when most of our income comes in. So I'm just saying that as a warning to the people on this dais that there's going to come a point where we're going to have to make a decision on opening businesses back up. So thank you very much.
Mr. Roberts, that's a very good point. And we are now working with Monument Health, and we're working on a plan to reopen. Because when the time is right, whether that be by political will or medical advice or whatever the case is, that discussion will occur. The question then should be, do we open all at once? Do we turn the spigot on full blast, or do we turn it on a little at a time? So we will have a plan ready for you to understand by the end of this next 2-week period, should this pass. And so ideally we would lean heavily on the medical advice of the professionals working on this, but they too realize that given the projected peak in June, that keeping things closed until the virus is eradicated is not realistic. And so we'll be working on this. So, Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question for Joel. If this ends on the 22nd, does that mean we have a meeting immediately on that Thursday?
No, I think the idea is we treat it like this meeting where instead of letting it expire on Wednesday, we have a meeting on the 20th, so you can extend it if you decide it could end. As soon as the resolution is published, it would be over the next morning.
Okay.
But if you decided it just builds in time so that you can approve it, get it published on Tuesday, and so it would be in effect prior to the Wednesday, the 22nd.
Okay. Just a couple of comments on things that were said. From what I can tell and what I've read about this medically, the escalation in cases happens quickly. It doesn't gradually ramp up. It happens fast. And that's what overwhelms the hospitals. This is not a flu. It's like a severe pneumonia, and it drowns people in their lungs. That's what happens. And it escalates quickly and overwhelms the people at the hospitals. So that's what we're looking at, not like a gradual ramp up until July, that when this happens, it will hit us quickly. And if tourism season goes down here, we're not the only ones facing that. We'll be in an incredible world of hurt for the entire country. I mean, everybody's going to be closed down if that's the case. So I don't think we have to worry about how we're going to deal with this as a state or as a city or even as a region, because it will be everywhere and all the tourism will be done. So I think that's a question that's kind of a moot point at this time, because if we close down, everybody will be closed down. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to extend until April 22nd. We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Lewis. Lehman. Drury.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong. Motion passes 8-1.
Okay. Item 49. Appeal of denied individual security license held by Jacob LaPlante. Mr. LaPlante here tonight? Yes. Okay, we'll turn the microphone over to Mr. LaPlante, who can make his case to the council on why the license should not be denied.
Thank you for the audience. I'd just like to go on to say I'm a member of the Army National Guard. I'm going on my 7th year. I have a standard clearance from the Department of Defense, and I'm a 249 saw gunner in my unit. I know this might be the best plea, but I feel like I'm kind of getting bullied. I used to be a formal correctional officer at the Pennington County Jail here. Things went south, but I have no convictions and I still have a clean record. I feel like if I went to Sioux Falls and I found a security job, I'd get a security license if I got a background check through them. And I just feel like this may not be the right decision, and I might be biased from my former work at the jail. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to Carl Jagras.
As you'll see, linked to the agenda is a letter that I wrote to explain the denial, and basically it says regarding his recent negative contacts with law enforcement. And I also asked or offered the opportunity to meet with him to discuss this. I certainly would have preferred to have done so privately. However, he did call the finance office and indicated that he would rather have it heard here. So just to give you an idea of what the concerns are, it isn't regarding his convictions of criminal history, it's regarding his current behavior. Most recently, November 20th of 2019, he was arrested for simple assault, domestic violence. That was while he was a corrections officer at the Pennington County Jail. That was a girlfriend of his was involved in that situation, and that resulted in his employment being terminated by the sheriff's office. A few days after that, he was out on bond on an ankle monitor, and he was again arrested for a bond revocation. And at that time, he was found to be intoxicated. He had slurred and illogical speech. He refused a PBT. And once arrested, he slipped his handcuffs to the front and was banging on the cage in the back of the patrol vehicle. He had to be put in full restraints, and he continued to scream and punch things during the transport. Previous to that, March of 2019, he and an ex-girlfriend were mutually alleging domestic violence behavior that required law enforcement intervention. That was a different female who was reported to be an ex-girlfriend at the time. And that was resolved by us bringing her to a domestic violence shelter. Previous to that, October of 2017, and I give this less influence in the decision because it is 2 years old, but it does help to show that there is possibly a pattern of concern. And at that time, he was arrested by the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department in, I believe, North Carolina for misdemeanor breaking and entering. He was intoxicated and attempting to enter the wrong house at about 3:22 in the morning. He believed at that time that the house that he was trying to get into was his. There was a family with children sleeping in the house, and the homeowner was able to push him out the front door as he was trying to get in. So, again, no convictions on any of this. Domestic violence cases are challenging to prosecute. The burden for our prosecutors in those cases is beyond a reasonable doubt. I would tell you that this matter does not have that same burden. It would have the preponderance of the evidence, which is a lot less burden of proof. But I can tell you, just based on him being in the back of one of the patrol cars of the sheriff's office, we have clear evidence of that. We have body cam footage of his behavior. A situation like this, I think, would pose a great risk to the community if he were to be given a security license. Regarding if he went to Sioux Falls, I can only speculate on that, but it depends on how good of a background investigation they would do. And we can't simply have our law enforcement officers locally here erase our memory of his current bad behavior. So I feel bad for his situation. He obviously has a lot of life in front of him, and I would wish him the best, and I would tell him that typically under circumstances like this, what I do with especially young people that have made current errors is I tell them to have 0 negative contacts with local law enforcement for a period of 1 year. And if that occurs, at that time, we would reconsider a licensure. So his last negative contact was November 23rd. So if he were to reapply in late November of this current year, we could reconsider. And I think it would be fair to allow him to respond to what I just said.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask a question to Mr. Jagras?
Yes, please.
If he got some counseling or those kinds of things, would that help expedite this situation? Or in conjunction with the no negative contact?
That would be something that could be taken into consideration regarding the alcohol usage and also the behavioral issues.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I yield.
Okay. Other comments from council? John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. LaPlante, would you like to respond to this? All right. Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask him if he did.
Okay. Well then, can we have a motion on the floor, please? Motion to deny from Roberts and a second by Lehman. All in, well, roll call vote. Motion is to deny.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong.
Aye.
Lewis. Lehman. Drury. Evans.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
This is Drury. I vote aye also. Sorry, my finger slipped.
Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. On to public hearing items, items 50 through 60. We have no reason for a public hearing or public comment during these times. There are no requests. So we'll go to public consent public hearing items 50 through 56, which are all alcohol licenses. And I don't believe there's been any correspondence from the RCPD on any issues flagging any of these. Okay, we have a motion to approve 50 through 56 from Roberts and second by Armstrong. All in favor of that motion, call in on the roll call.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury.
Aye.
Motion passes 9-0.
Okay, thank you. Now to non-consent public hearing items, starting with item 57. Second reading, ordinance 6386, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Corey Back for SLH Holdings for a rezoning request from general agricultural district to medium density residential district for property generally described as being located northeast of the intersection of Samus Trail and Healing Way. And the committee recommendation was to approve in conjunction with the associated initial plan development application 20PD-002. To approve with those stipulations from Roberts. Second by Lehman. Okay, roll call, please.
Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Roberts, Stroman. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item 58, second reading, ordinance 6398, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Dream Design International for Yasmin Dream LLC for a rezoning request from general agricultural district to medium density residential district for property generally described as being located east of Elkvale Road, south of Jaffa Garden Way.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Drew, second by Stroman. Okay, we'll go to roll call.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury,
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item 59, second reading, ordinance 6399, and ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Dream Design International for Yasmin Dream LLC for a rezoning request from general agricultural district to medium density residential district for property generally described as being located east of Elkvale Road, south of Jaffa Garden Way. Motion to approve by Nordstrom and a second by Roberts. A roll call, please.
Lewis, Lehman, Drury,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item 60, approve resolution number 2020-015, a resolution to approve TID number 68, project plan amendment number 1, to reallocate project plan costs for the southeast quarter, northeast quarter, government lot 1 and tract C of Big Sky subdivision, and the dedicated right-of-way for Homestead Street lying adjacent to tract C of Big Sky subdivision, located at the eastern terminal of Homestead Street.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Drew, second by Roberts. Roll call, please.
Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury,
Aye.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Now on to the bill list. We'll go to Finance Officer Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $11,206,570.01.
Motion? Motion by Lewis to approve, second by Nordstrom. We'll go to roll call, please, for the bill list.
Evans,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Nordstrom,
Aye.
Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have an objection to adjourning the meeting? Anyone have an objection? We are adjourned. Thank you.